Ashley, I had a wonderful evening with 3 of my college buddies last night.
I love it. I love that you got to do that.
It was lots of fun. I am still hungover, and it is like 6 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah.
I had 2 they were called triple box or something like that at our local brewing place. There were little bitty beers.
Yeah, high alcohol content though.
Yeah, and I do not drink very often, so I'm still a little, and then we had something else at Josh's house. I can't remember what, I don't know, it was I don't know, it tasted like cinnamon and cough medicine.
Excellent. Sounds like Fireball maybe.
No, it wasn't Fireball. I've had Fireball before. I wish I could remember now what it was. Anyway, we played Settlers of Catan and got drunk and talked shit and pretended we were all 22 again.
Did it feel like the year 2002?
It felt like we were about to go to war in the Middle East.
I know.
We had a neocon president who was going to decide to bomb other countries without authorization from Congress as required by the Constitution.
Yeah, just for fun.
Yeah. Happened right there in the middle of our dinner. It was awesome, Ashley. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
How's your World War III going?
No, so far so good, Brett closed a show last night, and he really closed it, so I was helping out a very drunk husband last night.
I think last night was a good night for everybody to get drunk, honestly. We got a lot of work to do in the days ahead of us.
Yeah. Blow off a
genuinely,
little
if
steam.
you are an American and you haven't heard the news, yes, our president decided to go to war last night. He's not calling it a war yet because he doesn't have authorization to conduct a war.
No. And we wouldn't do that. He's a peace-loving person.
Call your representative.
Here's the thing, though. We don't need to be worried, Joel, because the person in charge of, keeping terrorism from happening to all of us is basically a 22-year-old kid that lives in his mother's basement.
It's like somebody said, we're all breathing rather shallowly right now because the host of The Apprentice is conducting meetings with the CEO of WWE and a co-host of Fox and Friends about whether or not we're actually going to go to World War III. Call your representative, call your senator. Congress has a job to do. They are not currently in their offices, and by God, they need to get back to Washington and do something about this.
Reminder, they work for us.
They all work for us. And they have to understand this is literally diminishing their own jobs and positions and authority.
Absolutely.
So in a selfish nature, appeal to them and say, go save your own job. Goodness gracious.
And look, listen, there are no rules that say you can't drunk dial your senators.
No, I think there are very specifically rules that say you can drunk dial your senator.
Enjoy that freedom of speech and get on the phone, my friends. Make a bingo card about it.
World War III or no, by God, we're reading this vampire book, Ashley.
My God, this Cox and mental breakdowns should have been this section of this book.
There was one section in particular when Quinn is in the shower where she must have written the word cock 17, 18 times.
Literally was like, someone drop a thesaurus in this woman's hands. There are other words. And I have never thought that about Anne Rice, but this is a cock-heavy section of this book.
Here, I will say this. It is, well, you know what? Let's get to that in just a second. First, let's set the table. Who are we? Welcome to the Articulate Coven, the original, unofficial fan podcast and community for Anne Rice's Immortal universe, The Vampire Chronicles, Lives of the Mayfair Witches, and the Immortal Universe TV series from AMC and AMC+. The Articulate Coven is Ashley and Joel, but it's supported by listeners just like you. Find out more at articulatecoven.com/join. We are the Articulate Coven, and we're your hosts. I'm Joel.
Ashley.
And we are the Articulate Coven. We're talking about Blackwood Farm. We're Cox and Blackwood. Cox and what'd you say? Cox and
Cox
regret?
and mental breakdowns.
Cox and mental breakdowns.
Cox and cocks and regret. I mean, that could be a lot of our biographies, ladies.
It was a lot of 2002,
gentlemen.
2003, Ashley, honestly.
Choices. A lot of bad choices. Woof.
Okay. So it occurred to me, though, specifically while we're talking about the word use here, Anne historically has used the word sex often. He grasped the sex. He
like
put his fingers into her sex. Member. You're right. That's very common. It finally occurred to me, though, as I was reading this, and I was sort of taken aback by very repetitive use of the word cock. She is normally saying those things in Lestat's voice.
That's true.
And Lestat probably does not have the word cock. I mean, he knows it, I'm sure, but it would not be in his normal way to think about the penis, most likely, because it is not it's not timeline appropriate for him. Right.
I could see that. Yeah, I don't know. She came out hard with the cock in this one.
She came out hard with the cock. Boy,
I was like,
so many good titles that we can't use because of SEO.
I know. It's not my fault this time. This is Anne Rice's fault, 100%.
So we are talking about Blackwood Farm. This is Blackwood Farm Part 2. We're talking about chapters 11 through 25.
25.
And this thing is speeding right along. Man, what a crazy book! It's much ghost sex.
Fast read. I'm reading it physically, so for me, this is like a crazy fast read. There's so much ghost sex, much cock fondling by ghosts.
It's bizarre to me how much of this book, like just almost all of it, is told in flashback. Like it's like already in the first part, there's that whole big section where Quinn just begins to talk to Lestat about what had happened. And then now they go to Blackwood Farm, and Aunt Queen tells Lestat all about her childhood and upbringing, and that's flashbacks. And then now Quinn is going to tell Lestat again about what happened and how he became a vampire and how all of this stuff happened and who Rebecca was and how it all went. And anyway, it's just like, and it is weird. I don't know. All of her books, or most of her books in the Vampire Chronicles, at least, all of them, I guess, now that I think about it, are epistolary. Epistolary? What's the word? They're basically letters. They're diary entries, right? Like the narrator, whoever the narrator happens to be, is copying the book down directly or having it dictated to someone.
Right.
But here, what we are reading is Lestat writing someone else's story. And so it's like, I don't know, the layering of it to me was a few times discombobulating in some fashion. Yeah, it was weird.
We've gone kind of Inception on this one a little bit in our storytelling, in our storytelling, but it's fine.
Okay, there's two pieces of feedback in particular that I want to get to before we get into the episode properly.
Excellent.
First of all, lots of you listened all the way to the end of the episode or watched all the way to the end of the episode, and you heard I played a little trick. I played just a touch of the theme music, and then I cut back in to complain to Ashley that you all had not properly appreciated my new hairdo, my top knot and ponytail. And I just want to appreciate that many of you took the time to tell me how cute it was. You did exactly what Podcast Daddy asked you to do, like the good little subs you are. Thank
you. He'll be in such a good mood all week. He's going to be happy all week.
Yeah, I had literally, there were about 5 or 6 comments. It was some version of, Joel, you're cute. You're very pretty.
Joel, you're
I
so
love
precious.
It. It's fine. Okay, here is the big feedback, though. And this is such good feedback from Melissa Bouchard. She said, so, I don't want to bust your bubble here, but my mother tongue is French. And not only are there hard G's in French, they're pretty common, actually. But pirogue in French is pronounced with a hard G. It's actually always the case when G is followed by a U and then a vowel. It's always a hard G in French, in native French, in France French.
But they fuck it up in Louisiana so bad.
Use the G and a U and a vowel.
I told you about Shudrint. I brought up Shudrint.
Yes, of course, the official pronunciation in English might be different, as is often the case with foreign words incorporated into another language, but hard G pirogue is a real thing in French. I'm sorry, laughing, crying face. Also, And this is such a good catch on her part. Also, speaking of pronunciation, it was quite hilarious hearing Joel switching back and forth between his natural pronunciation of Lestat and the official pronunciation given by Anne in this book, Lestat. I was wondering what was going on suddenly until you got to that part in the book. You were really trying, weren't you? I was
You
trying
put the
so
effort
hard.
in. I don't. I'm like, I'm fucking ruined. I'm ruined.
You know what's crazy? Okay, since we've started reading this book, I have not seen an episode of the TV show, and I can't remember right now off the top of my head how Louis pronounces it in the show. How Jacob pronounces it as Louis. I think he says Lestat too. I think he pronounces it correctly. But I would not be surprised if every now and again, with that Cajun French influenced Louisiana accent, he says Lestat.
Lestat.
So she
Lestat,
says,
Lestat.
Melissa says, I've really enjoyed this video. I love Blackwood Farm. I've only read it for the first time a few weeks ago because I had stopped at Blood and Gold when I read the Vampire Chronicles as a teen and only got to it in my current rereading of the series. So it's very cool to see how your perspective might have changed from then to now. I'm not sure I would have liked it that much if I had read it before, basically for the same reasons you mentioned. More Lestat, please. Anyway, I'm rambling again. Thanks for sharing your discussion with us. And I commented and I said, Melissa, you've ruined my day with this news. No, but for real, this is why we need our audience. We'd be so clueless without you. There is definitely not hard G as a general rule in Cajun French in particular, with the word Piro. It so blows my mind. I mean, I could not imagine a coon-ass saying the word pirogue. Just would not happen.
All I can think about are pierogies, and all I want to do are eat some pillowy, delicious dumplings with potatoes inside them. Please and thank you.
Eating delicious things made me think about this. A quick mention here. In the show notes, just a reminder, you'll find all the info. If you haven't already signed our little poll saying yes, you're going to go to New Orleans for Anne's celebration, please do so. There's a link in the show notes. If you haven't gotten your room yet, there is a link and information to the Sheridan room block. You can get a room, I think it's like $179 starting price. We've got a block of rooms at the Sheridan. We will probably do at least one like cocktail hour where we come and hang out at the Sheridan bar downstairs.
Yeah.
So that'll be a good place for you if
you're
going to be staying there.
It's the one right on Canal,
it's right in the middle of everything.
Yeah, I stayed there before.
So just a reminder, put this on your calendar. Anne Rice's Celebration of Life. The tickets are going to go on sale. They start at, I think the lowest is $89. Is it 78 or 89? Something like that. 80 or 90
I think
bucks.
it's going to run you like 80 to 90, I'd say.
And you basically, fees. Even at that level, with the fees, it's going to be basically $100 a ticket. But there's like about $100, there's like $120 level or $130 level, and then there's like one at $178. There are 3 levels of tickets. They're going to go on sale July 11th at 9 a.m. PST, Pacific Standard Time. Put that in your calendar, set it up. You're going to have to buy them straight through the Orpheum or the Ticketmaster websites. The Orpheum is the venue that we're going to be at, and it is going to be through Ticketmaster. You're limited to 2 tickets per Ticketmaster account. So if you have a larger group, you're going to need to arrange that and have several people try to buy at once. I'm sure they will go quickly. I think, honestly, the combination of the limiting to 2 tickets per sale and the way that they've announced it ahead of time, I think they're going to do a pretty good job of limiting like scalpers buying and reselling these things, which is what we want. So like that's the best they can do.
Honestly, this is a fucking like celebration of life. This would be a really shitty thing.
Wouldn't it?
Fucking do that. I mean, like, this is not a Taylor Swift concert, for fuck's sake, you know? My God.
I mean, listen, I watched all of these people be mad about the availability of the Nintendo Switch 2 on its launch, and most of those people are because they were hoping to buy 6 of them and then sell them to some kid that desperately wanted one for twice as much money. So, fuck scalpers. If you can't go for whatever reason, not only to the Celebration of Life, but to New Orleans generally at that time, the event will be broadcast after the fact on the internet. We're guessing that it'll probably be for sale as well. Ashley and I will be in attendance for that. We're super excited. That's going to be at 7 p.m. on the 1st, the event itself,
Yes.
November 1st.
It was originally announced to be in the afternoon. This is not the afternoon.
That is not the afternoon. And Christopher tells us to expect about a 90-minute event. Plus, there's going to be a line if you'd like to meet and say hello to Christopher and Eric Shaw Quinn, his producing partner. So all of that's going to be awesome. What have we confirmed since the last time you and I talked? Oh, our tour guide, Rose Sinister, is going to be hosting a private tour for us. She's a vampire specialist, and she's going to be doing that. We've talked about a couple of dates. My thinking is this is either going to be the afternoon of Saturday the 1st or the evening of Sunday the 2nd. And I know some of you are going to be flying out Sunday morning or something like that. We're planning on probably doing our live recording on Sunday afternoon as early as we can be up and sober. And then my thought is after that, we'll get with Rose and go for the tour. Here's what we're going to do. There's going to be a link in the show notes where you can go and say, yes, I would like to take this tour with Rose Sinister and the Articulate Coven. I believe it's limited to 20 people. Don't 100% quote me on that, but it's a pretty small group. If we have a super amount of interest, what we'll do is we'll put up 2 tours probably. Okay.
Oh, yeah, so that'll be awesome.
Go to the link, sign up if you're gonna want to do this with us. And if you need to, in the comments of that, say, hey, I'm only going to be available if it's going to be Saturday afternoon. I'm only going to be available if it's Sunday evening or whatever. Let us know which one would work for you and which one wouldn't. And then what's going to happen is I'm gonna put that list together with your email information and stuff. And when you do a poll, when you reply to a poll on Patreon, this is one of the great things about Patreon, I get your email information so I can reply to you directly if we want to do that in the future. Like the people who have said, yes, we're going to New Orleans, I can reach out to you directly and give you a little newsletter with all the information when we lock down times and dates and et cetera for how to join us and what to do. Same thing for this. I'm going to give that information to Rose. Then when we lock down what the time is going to be and who wants to go, she's going to start sending invites basically to lock in your tour. And you can purchase the tour directly through her. And if you'll have, I think we've decided on 3 days, like 72-hour kind of thing to reply to that and respond and purchase your tour. And then we'll go down to the next person in the list if you don't reply. So that's the way that's going to work. Information's in the show notes. Check that out, pretty please, and join us. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Hell yes.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. Hopefully by the next episode, I'll have some more information about where we're going to do our live recording. So look forward to that.
We're going to, Brett corrected me. And by that, I mean, he said, I want to go on the 30th, not the 31st. So we're going to come down the 30th.
I
was like, I should ask Joel if I should be there the 30th. And Brett was like, I thought we were going the 30th. And I was like, yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we are the 30th.
So my thought there is, and I'm genuinely like, Halloween, some of you, I don't know about most of you in this audience, most of you might be like, fuck yeah, I'm going to go out Halloween night in New Orleans. My wife has specifically requested an early evening Halloween. She's like, I really don't want to be in the quarter, like out and about on Halloween night. I don't love that idea. And I'm like, okay, well, then we'll do something early and then we'll call it a night. But some room on either side of the event itself. Like we're going to do some other fun stuff. I'm going to try to get us maybe a group rate to do View through 60, which is up on the top of the Four Seasons. So I'll add to those hopefully over the next couple of weeks, but go check all the information in the show notes.
Yeah.
Sign up, do whatever you need to do if you're going to join us in New Orleans. And we're looking forward to being with you all. I think it was Tommy Sweeney said, can't wait to buy a drink for you and Ashley. And I was like, why do you think I want to hang out with all you people? It's going to be a good time, folks. All right, let's talk about the story of Rebecca. That's how this section starts. We've met Ghost Rebecca. She gave Quinn the thrill of his life up on Blueberry Hill, so to speak.
Then tried to burn down his house.
Tried to burn down the house and then begged him for retribution and revenge for how she was treated. And here,
which was not good, to be real.
Yeah, we got a glimpse. We had some suggestions of what that might have been like, and clearly we thought she had been murdered, but we get a broader picture and a more specific picture of what had happened to her. So it's interesting. Rebecca is born in New Orleans Irish Channel, this is Anne's story, basically. This is where Anne comes from. She got an Irish father, a German grandmother. They abuse her 12 siblings. She gets beaten with a leather strap. She's got a hard life from go. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's not fun to be Rebecca.
She works as a maid. She gets raped, which is like, again, the story of all sorts of domestic help over the course of American history. She ends up, though, getting pregnant, and she finds her way down to Storyville, which I had forgotten the Storyville figured into this book at all. I know Storyville comes up.
It wouldn't have registered in my brain, I don't think.
Yeah.
At the time.
Especially at the time, you and I weren't thinking about. We didn't connect that to the broader Vampire Chronicles in the way that we do now through the TV show. Storyville comes up for Julian Mayfair in the Mayfair series, but we haven't really seen it in the Vampire Chronicles until here. But she ends up in Storyville working at a brothel, and the child that she has never comes to term. She ends up dying. Sort of like when we watched Poor Things, Ashley, it turns out Rebecca discovers she's quite good at the work that she's found herself in.
Yeah, come to find out, work is work, and everyone excels at some jobs more than others.
There's a line later from Mona Mayfair where she says something like, I don't know what it is about me and sex. I just love it so, or enjoy it so much. That is Rebecca as well.
Yeah.
It turns out Rebecca really likes to screw.
Yeah. And good for you. Get it.
She also, though, likes the finer thing, so to speak, and she pretends to be fancy even while she's working at the brothel. But she finds herself Manfred Blackwood one day. He comes to the brothel. He's immediately enamored by her. He gives her a bunch of jewelry and asks her to come away with him. They go to Europe. They have this honeymoon. Yeah. So on this honeymoon, though, Manfred changes. And in this part of the story, we don't know exactly how or why. We get little glimpses of it. And again, it's like putting piece together. But by here, this is where I'm confirming for myself. I'm like, okay, Manfred's story and Tarquin's story are directly connected to each other. This mysterious stranger on Sugar Devil Island is in fact Manfred's mysterious stranger, and the reason why this has all gone awry. There's a pretty heavy implication in here, though, if not an outright a line that confirms it, Ashley. I think Manfred was given this connection through Julian. Manfred Blackwood and Julian knew each other. They made a deal so that the Mayfair family would always take care of the Blackwood money. The trust is protected by the Mayfairs, and they had ongoing dealings of different kinds. We know that Julian was into all sorts of occult shit.
Yeah, I wouldn't let Julian set me up with anyone.
No.
Like if Julian was like, hey, here's a friend of mine you might have a good time with, I'd be like, I think I'll hard pass. There's probably some witchcraft involved in this somewhere. Especially if I'm an old man with a heap load of money.
So Rebecca notices this change in Manfred. He's colder, he's aloof, he's more violent with her and everything. And Rebecca lashes out because up until this time, honestly, he had kind of been doting on her. And so now she's getting sassy, and it's a problem. It's sort of scandalous for the she told she was going to have. He told her she's supposed to be
going to marry her, and
exactly.
And she's like, yeah, I want those things that I'm supposed to have. Now she's a little banana cakes about it.
Manfred finally can't deal with it anymore, and he's like, I'm just going to get rid of this bitch, and drags her out to Sugar Devil Island. And we see like a lot of this torture, and it's weird because again, we're only getting the worst parts. Like we're not getting a whole lot of details about exactly why any of this is happening or like what is the arrangement, but we are seeing that she was tortured and eventually murdered by both these people, this mysterious stranger and Manfred.
And not just, like there's no reason to just kill this woman. And even if you want to just kill this woman to get rid of her, you don't have to fucking torture her and hang her on a hook.
Yeah.
Fuck you, dude. Like, what is wrong with you? There's something deeply, deeply off.
I mean, especially like, again, since we, the readers, sort of think to ourselves, well, this is somehow connected to the vampire that makes Quinn. Why doesn't he drain this woman like a normal vampire? Like, why would you torture and hang her on a hook and her body rots for 100 years? Like,
Yeah.
goodness gracious.
I mean, just leave her there. Ugh.
So finally, though, now Rebecca has this chance through Quinn to get some sort of restitution, and she keeps calling out, life for my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think even Quinn really understands. Quinn keeps thinking that he's like, well, I put up your headstone.
Yeah,
I cleaned up the murder. I've looked into who's been killed
your
out
DNA,
here.
We identified you. We buried you. We scooped every bit of it of you we could find and put you in a little box. And then he's put her stuff on display, her jewelry and things on display at the house so that, the visitors can see it and everything. Like, he really is acting like he's done right by her. But that's not what she wanted him to do.
She wants, I mean, she's the bride from Kill Bill. Like, she's Beatrix Kiddo come for her pound of flesh. It is interesting to me that, okay, they put all of the stuff on display. He puts all of her things on display and like makes this little memorial for her, and she takes some of the jewelry and wears it when she comes out to seduce him the next time. I'm like, that is you're a very special lady, Rebecca Stanford.
You don't have to go to all that trouble, turns out. You just grab his cock and he's all about it.
Let's talk a little bit about cock grabbing, I guess. No, we're not quite there yet.
We're not quite to it.
Okay, Queen wants to talk more about Rebecca and really fill Quinn in. She says at one point, you need knowledge to arm you against this cozy lovemaking ghost.
I loved that line. Oh, God, I love that line. That was so funny.
All right. He hears this horror story of Rebecca. He gets all of this information about this tragic life, this horror movie laid out for him. And what is his response in the end, Ashley? He kisses his aunt's toes and feet when it's all done. I'll reiterate, Tarquin has no healthy relationships with the women in his life. No. Not a single one.
This house is not normal. The things that happen in this house are not normal. If you live in a house, things like this are happening in your house, you need to find an adult. A real adult, an adultier adult than any of the adults you know. This is not normal. We do not know. No.
First of all, as we discussed,
he's an eyelash away from being a toe sucker, and it's his.
I mean,
it's his
old, and his
old
aunt is like 85 or
it's
some
his
shit.
Old aunt.
Old lady. Don't suck old lady toes, man. Just, I mean, I'm not yucking your yum. I'm just saying.
Do it, but like, don't write a book about it.
Don't write a book about it. Yeah, don't write a book about it. Exactly. Do it. Don't write a book about it.
Short story, maybe.
We talked about this in our discussion of Once Bitten, but it was just so funny here. Again, Queen is like sort of pushing back against him because Quinn is like, oh, no, it's fine. She really cares about me and she needs this.
Look,
she says,
a ghost is, don't fuck with ghosts. Don't fuck ghosts.
Yeah.
Don't fuck with ghosts.
She says, a ghost so powerful you actually lost your virginity with her? First of all, when we talk about the concept of virginity being a construct and a falsehood and a fiction.
That's a real good example of proof the point. Fucked a ghost.
Y'all, Queen, when did he lose his virginity with this ghost exactly? Like, was it just upon completion? Because he has completed before this, I guarantee you. Anyway. Quinn says, if there was anywhere I wanted to travel outside of Ruby River Parish, it was to the ruins of Pompeii. Y'all, Tarquin is a weird dude.
Yeah, that's what
just
this section.
Dreaming of Pompeii.
This section of this book, I was like, I was like, he is a weird motherfucker. This is a weird dude. Look, I'm into a bunch of weird, dark shit, but my dream in life My dream in life is not to go visit the ruins of Pompeii. Like my number one with a bullet. Let's
Yeah,
go
that's what,
visit.
like, if you ask me, hey, on a tour of Europe, would you like to spend a day or two in Pompeii? I would say, yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be
Absolutely. That
great.
sounds interesting,
Pompeii would not be
fascinating.
it's not the only place I want to travel outside of Ruby River
It would
Parish.
be like say I plan a vacation for myself and I decide I want to go visit the house from Silence of the Lambs and I do that on purpose. And that's the only place I go and I go to that weird little town on purpose just to see that house. That might be kind of like Tarquin wanting to go to Pompeii.
It's pretty specific.
Otherwise, I'll just visit that house if I'm in the vicinity and not plan a trip that requires a plane ride to get there.
So my distaste with Tarquin's pronunciation, particularly in the audiobook aside, Tarquin does use a lot of great Southernisms. Here's one. Okay, Tarquin's gone out to the swamp and found the mausoleum and everything, and then he sort of got stuck out there because of Rebecca, and they found him, and now he's back at home. He says, as for Pops, it was well past his bedtime, and he looked like he had been rode hard and put up wet.
Put up wet.
I knew what a worry I was to him. Rode hard and put up wet is one of my favorite Southernisms, and I know it's crass.
It's crass, but it's also like there's also like a reality to it too about like if you ride your horse hard, you do not put your horse up wet. You gotta walk him off, cool him out.
Nor your leather, right? Like you don't use leather in the rain and just put it up wet. That'll be a problem.
That's gonna be a problem.
Friends, there is a certain kind of person in their late 40s that's been living in a trailer park their whole life, that smokes too many cigarettes and drinks too many Miller Lights, and they look rode hard and put up wet. It is when you see it,
you'll know it now that you've heard it. If you haven't heard it before, there's a lot of really great Southernisms out there. Rode hard and put up wet's a real good one because it's true on so many levels.
So it turns out everybody thought Tarquin was crazy, especially when he started talking about going to this damn island. But everything that Tarquin said about the island is exactly what he said it was.
Yeah.
So they start this like legal and archaeological excavation to figure it all out.
It's just a good mystery. Cool. It's a cool mystery. This is very interesting. I'm much more interested in the mystery of everything than I am in his cock.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. It is interesting to me to watch like the good old boys be like, well, Tarquin, that's silly. We're not going to do that. And then Queen be like, yes, you are going to do that. And they're like, well, yes, now, Miss Queen. And they're like, you're going to, and they, well, okay, Miss Queen, we'll go. You know, it's a bunch of fucking Roscoe P. Johnsons from Smokey and the Bandit out here, harumphing, but doing what Miss Queen tells them to do because she's got all the money in the parish.
Everybody knows this, that Quinn's fucking nuts. Like, everybody thinks he's crazy. Like, this is not, and everybody knows about the foot sucking that's going on in this house, I'm sure.
Right.
No one thinks this family's normal. You know, like you know people talk.
So he gets in the shower to finally get cleaned up after all this ordeal and being locked out in the island and being visited by Rebecca again. And boom, suddenly Goblin's there in the shower and he is randy and very focused on young.
What an imaginary friend you have.
What a friend we have in Goblin.
What teenage boy worth his weight would not want a little friend to pop into his shower?
Sometimes you just don't want the manual labor, Ashley, is all I'm saying. Sometimes it's nice to be handled.
It's a different grip, if you will.
He just gets a good one there in the shower, and Goblin reiterates the whole time. Basically, he's like, "You don't need Rebecca. This is this is all you need.
I got you.
Goblin,
Quinn, got you.
One person."
Mm-hmm.
So meanwhile, though, he is interrupted shortly after his climax in the shower. as they desperately get him out of the bathroom. Why? Because Pops has died. Pops is
Oh.
keeled over fighting with Patsy, and now Tarquin is the man of the house. So Patsy, his
Gotta
mother,
get out of the shower for that.
right? It's time to get out of the shower. Pops is dead. While you were coming downstairs, there was a crisis. So Patsy, his country music playing mother, has contracted HIV, and she tells Pops this, and this is like one step too far. He just can't handle the continued drama with her, and strokes out and is dead. Meanwhile, Tarquin has his bisexual awakening thanks to Father Kevin. He says, I found both
always
men.
A Mayfair.
Right? He says, I found both men and women erotically beautiful. And then he reiterates that too.
Well, doesn't he look like Mona too? Don't we find out that he looks...
So I was going to say, when he first sees Mona from across the room, here's the quote specifically. He says, it was as if Father Kevin Mayfair had morphed into his own beautiful sister, breasts big enough to please any man, but still a girliness with her ribbons.
With her ribbons.
I was like, 15. Oh, good Lord. Okay. I had forgotten how young Mona is in this book still. It felt like there was so far between Lasher and... I knew she's like 13 at the end of Lasher. Yeah. But it felt like there's so much time in between those books. But this is a flashback to Quinn's earlier life, right? Like, you met Mona at this... Like, she's fresh off the ignominy, whatever, of the events of Lasher and Taltos. Yeah. And she's being sort of like guarded by the family.
She's being handled.
Handled by the family.
Absolutely. This is the most age-appropriate relationship we see Mona in, so I say...
It's so close, though. Like, so Tarquin's like 19, I think, though. He's too old for her, is the point. He's
18. He's only 18.
18,
but
okay, still.
But it still is.
Legal, I suppose, in Arkansas and Louisiana with the 3-year age difference or whatever, the Romeo and Juliet laws, I think. But it's not legal for him to kidnap her and drive her away and say, hey, I want to get married.
No, indeed. And that's such a fucking dumb 18-year-old boy reaction to something. Like, talk about your Romeo and Juliet bullshit. Like, I just saw you. I'm going to marry you. Like, calm down. You're 18. Calm the fuck down.
Okay, I will say this, though. There is and honestly, I make this joke later somewhere in my notes. We're skipping ahead here a little bit to talk about Mona, but she is such a big part of this section. I say, okay, we've previously joked about Quinn being Joel Sharpton's self-insert fan fiction that Anne Rice actually wrote. Well, here we go. He is madly in love with Mona Mayfair and proposes far too early.
Yep.
Ashley, I met my first wife, Ella. I met her on Halloween night of like 2003. And it was not Christmas the first time that I proposed. At Easter, she finally said yes. So it was like less than 9 months, I think, it was less than 9 months from the day we met to the day we got married. When we actually got married was like in July.
At what point, can I ask, at what point did you actually have a ring in this process of asking?
I think I had the ring for Easter. I think because she had told me no from Christmas until Easter, like, I think we told her parents that we were going to see the Lord of the Rings, and instead I rented a hotel room or something. And we enjoyed ourselves that afternoon for the 2.5 hour running time or whatever. And then I proposed as I was about to like take her back. I think that was the first time. But my point is, again, like, if they want to keep coming up with ways that Tarquin reminds us of Joel. Yeah, I don't have a ghostly hand job waiting around the corner though. Like, I'm honestly a little jealous.
You know what, Joel? Your time isn't up. You get a Ouija board and you find the right fella.
Ashley, I know better than to call up a hand job with summoning. Like, that's not the way that works.
What if it comes back threefold?
You know that meme where the woman's like,
See? Just leave your options open is all I'm saying.
Okay, so again, here's the sequence of events. Tarquin has been sort of molested by a ghost. He finds a torture island on his own property where he's grown up and been raised his whole life. He is then kind of forcefully sexually assaulted in the shower by his imaginary friend, and his grandfather dies. And then he decides he should bed the help. And he takes Jasmine to bed for the first time.
These are cocks and bad choices. Like, you're the man of the house, I guess. I don't know. That's gross. I don't know what you're doing.
When he first comes, so he and Jasmine are like all hot and sweaty out on the island. And when he starts coming on, he's like, you're going to sleep with me tonight. This is going to, and she's like, Tarquin, no. She shuts him down at first. But the fact of the matter is, he knows that she hasn't had a boyfriend since her husband passed away like years ago. So she's been sort of celibate. And frankly, he's young and in the prime of life, and he's throwing it at her, and she can't help himself, or herself anyway.
Pops is dead. No one really to judge you too much for it.
Exactly. He says,
or maybe you're all just so sad you need to fuck about it.
He is having sex with his mammy, basically, is what we're talking about here. Jasmine's raised him, and he says, God, this is heaven. You're in the wrong place.
So ridiculous. I love it. I love it.
That is how an 18-year-old feels about sex, though, for the record, I think. Aunt Queen finally just lays it all out. We have to have you examined, or they're going to lock you up, and they're going to lock me up for not letting you get an examination.
Right.
Like, they think you're crazy.
Real talk. We got to do this.
Yeah. And so this is when we get to Mayfair Medical, which, first of all, again, Anne's playing with her geography here. She wants Blackwood Farm to be in North Louisiana, but they drive to Mayfair Medical in New Orleans in like an hour.
And that is not a thing.
No. But here is where we meet Wynn Mayfair. So Rowan has collected 2 other Dr. Mayfairs from around the country, and the 3 of them are running Mayfair Medical together.
She's got awesome. 2. I love this.
I think this is a cool idea too. She's got 2 competent doctors that are actually running the medical establishment, so she can run her secret human testing experiments in the background.
Get your Frankenstein on.
So they're sitting in the restaurant, and we've heard about the restaurant previously already, that it's got this, like, the Mayfair Medical has this thing where Rowan's like, hey, people are going to be here with their family members getting medical treatment, and they should be able to enjoy the city. They should be able to have fine dining from wherever they come from right here in our hospital, which is a cool idea. And so he's sitting in the cafeteria, basically, and he says, I knew it to be a boldly homogenized and democratic place, yet a place of genuine beauty and refinement. And my heart went out to the woman who designed it. And I thought, okay, joking about the self-insert fan fiction, but like, this is exactly what Anne would like best. Anne likes the finer things in life, right? Personally.
And no matter what's going on, you should be able to have access to those things,
That, yes, coming from a poor background herself, and having been poor even as an adult until basically the Queen of the Damned hit. And that's when her life really changed as a struggling writer. She was now a blockbuster writer. But she's always had this sort of, I think it was Andy Warhol that said it, but there's the quote about the great thing about the American system, the American way of life. The perfect example of that is a Coca-Cola, right? A Coke is a Coke, and the Coke costs the same amount of money, and there's no amount of money that you can get a better Coke, right? And the president knows it, and the movie stars know it, and the bum on the street corner knows it, and you know it. And that is sort of like a democratizing. Yeah, it's an equalizing. I mean, genuinely it is, right? Coke's example of that. I saw a tech guy one time say that about the iPhone. It's not really true anymore, because there's like the Pro and the Max and the 19 different versions. But once upon a time, he's like, an iPhone is an iPhone. And there's no, Obama can't get a better iPhone. And, Elon Musk can't get a better iPhone. And basically anybody in America can afford one if they want one. And so that's a very democratizing moment or whatever. That was such a part of Anne's philosophy, I feel like. It's such an apt line, I think, and I'm glad that it's here, because I really do feel like this is how Anne felt. And I think this is an example. What she does with Rowan and what Rowan does with the Mayfair money is what Anne would have done if she had ever become a billionaire. Like,
right. Well, and it's what you should do. Like, I love this comedian Tom Papa, and he's got this set where this bit where he's talking about, great, you're a billionaire, you did it, congratulations, you get to be a billionaire for 24 hours, and after that, you better start giving some of that shit away, and it's just exactly the way I feel about it. Like, wow, you did so good. That's more money than anyone can ever spend in their life. Turn around and fucking do something good with it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I can't remember the specifics or the numbers, but it's if you made whatever $100,000 every year since Jesus was born, you wouldn't have $1 billion today, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a astronomical figure that anyway.
Yeah.
This again is an example of, I think, self-insert fan fiction, and it doesn't even stop there. Ashley, why are we here in this fancy cafeteria? First of all, I didn't mention this earlier, but after Quinn's examinations, they all think he's crazy. None of them believe him, but he's not the dangerous kind of crazy, so he's going to be fine. They're going to send him home.
Well,
he's rich and not dangerous.
Exactly. Well, that's the difference, isn't it? You got the proper care that you need to not look like a crazy person roaming the streets.
If Quinn was unhoused, talking about how Goblin had shown him where the murder scenes happened, he would have been locked up.
Furthermore, if he was unhoused and talking about Goblin giving him hand jobs, it would or getting hand jobs from Goblin, this would not be probably well received.
That guy. I think I met that guy one time, actually, when I was living in New Orleans, now that I think about it.
Yeah, could have been.
So the reason, though, that he is up there is to meet Nash. She has brought this new tutor. Queen has brought Quinn this new tutor. She's fallen in love with this guy and said, this guy's perfect for you. We're going to go to Europe together. And Quinn's like, I can't go to Europe. I've got a goblin if I go there, he'll disappear, basically. Like, Goblin's convinced he won't exist in Europe.
Yes.
Or won't be solid in Europe and won't be there.
Because their traveling experiences before did not go well.
Right. I do wonder, even right now, I'm wondering in the novel at this point, I'm like, yeah, but is that true anymore? Like, Goblin has grown already for lots of reasons.
Well, and he's figured out how to, like, harness power too, like the way he's able to talk through the computer and things like that. He's figuring out how to use energy in a different way than he was able to before.
And this is a great example of, like, and we mentioned this a lot in the first section, but like this growth of Goblin and this further expansion and exploration of Goblin is really interesting in light of characters like Lasher and Amel from the Vampire Chronicles and the Mayfair Witches. So
well, and we get it confirmed. Other people can see him, and that's like repeatedly confirmed throughout. So it's like we know our guy is not just,
They're up here in this fancy restaurant because Queen wants to introduce Tarquin to Nash, his new tutor. What did Nash write his thesis about, Ashley? What had he just defended academically? Whether or not Charles Dickens had been edited in his works.
And I thought, very interesting.
This is literally, Anne is just checking boxes for shit she likes in this book.
Yeah.
Okay, if you don't know this, very famously, historically speaking, Anne Rice doesn't like to be edited, and she talks about it at length in her public interviews. In fact, and I was thinking it was after Tale of the Body Thief, but I just looked it up earlier. It's actually after the release of Queen of the Damned. She informed her and she had the same editor her whole career.
Yeah.
But she informed this person that after the Queen of the Damned, she will only be turning in finished manuscripts. They can spell check and change the typesetting to get it in the publishing order that they want. But she did not get edited after that. I know there is a big section of the fan base that thinks that was to her detriment. I think creativity is almost always a collaborative effort, and I think everyone is better when they have a creative partner. But I don't know that Anne is wrong on this, particularly about novels, and particularly once you're deep enough in your career and had the success that she had had with Queen. You have that relationship with your editor, and some of the quote unquote editing comes in the writing process anyway. When you're having conversations,
Right.
the editor's like, "What are you working on?" And you
Well, I would
say,
be very interested to know what her editor would have to say about what that relationship was like. You
"Yeah,
know,
and I'm guessing there is at least one or two interviews out there where she's spoken about that relationship with Anne, especially now that Anne's passed."
there
But
has to be like a really good understanding of one another to have had a relationship in that business last that long, I'd say too.
yes,
So I don't think it couldn't have been too acrimonious when they were working together. So, but I mean, that's not the way that's not the way it works for most writers.
well, and I you do wonder some of the tangents that Anne took over those last, whatever 9 books or so. More than that, I guess, because there's 18 total, counting the witch books and that. So there probably she did 11 or 12 without her editor, basically. But
Yeah.
I'm saying I don't think she probably did do them without her editor. I think the editor
Right.
was involved in the creative process, and it was a pitching of ideas and a discussion as things went on. And her influence was probably still felt in the writing after that process. It's just that the nature of it changed,
Yeah, the way that they approached the editing process changed.
Yeah.
You can
But
make a lot of creative people happy by making them think changes that you came up with are their ideas.
their ideas, exactly. Yeah, but it is interesting here that she's like, and you know what else? Dickens probably hated editors too.
Love it.
Just sticking it in there. Okay, so here is where across the cafeteria he's enamored with Nash immediately, and just, yes, this will be my tutor. We'll
He
figure
sounds
it
like a
out.
great
Great.
guy. Sounds like I mean, he's a great character. He's being very cordial about Goblin. He's
Well,
saying got real yes and energy there.
and after we see the scene afterwards where they basically spend the night walking around the grounds together and talking and getting to know each other, but like, yeah, Nash is incredibly understanding and accepting of who Quinn is and whatever Quinn's situation is, whether or not he believes it all or not.
Right.
um but this is the moment where he sees Mona across the room and literally like confronts her and asks if he can call upon her like it's the 1920s.
It's so
Or
silly.
it made me think about the scene in The Godfather where Michael has gone to Sicily and he and his bodyguards are walking around and they see the pretty girl at the restaurant,
Mhm.
and he's like, he asks the owner like, who's the pretty girl, type more Greek than Italian, whatever, and the guy gets mad because it's his daughter.
Yeah.
He's like, no, you bring his daughter up, bring him back out here. He's like, all due respect, I'm gonna court your daughter and I'm gonna come see her at your home. Tell me when to show up. Quinn's very forward about what he wants.
And that ended
Ashley.
really well for her, by the way. That ended so great for that girl.
A Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, it ended very badly for her.
Oh, bless.
So I love this Romeo and Juliet bullshit. Like, we already talked about how it's long.
It is.
And it's stupid.
But I like it better than anything else she's done, because everything else she's done has been kind of horrifying as far as like her sexual appetites and seducing her much older male relatives. I'm like, oh, well, this guy's at least somewhat age appropriate. Somewhat.
Well, okay. And not just that, but he
not
is
your cousin's
also weird.
husband.
He's weird in the same way that she is, right? They are people set apart. They're from these incredibly wealthy families,
They're
touched
very
by the
similar.
supernatural. Both of them are gifted to see spirits, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's one of the reasons why he says so immediately. He's like, no, we're gonna marry each other. Because he's like, Mona can understand and accept Goblin in a way that
no
even
one
Aunt
else can.
Queen can't, right? Even Jasmine and Pops and everybody in my life who just like, okay, fine. Like, none of them make fun of him.
Right.
Yeah. And Nash, we just talked about,
they don't,
Nash is sweet about it and accepting and polite, but Nash doesn't see him. Nash can't be fucking intimate with Goblin like Mona is, as we find out later. I love that moment. They're driving in the car and Quinn realizes that Goblin was there for the sex.
Yeah.
He's like, you didn't get inside me. I would have felt that. And
No?
Mona's like, no. He did. He got inside you and me both, actually.
He was all up in there. All up in both of us.
But I mean, she's not complaining.
That's the weirdest threesome ever. Like,
I mean, to be fair, this is a Mona who has like seduced her uncle Michael with the lingering spirit of whatever and her witchiness,
Yeah.
and also literally made like a Pokemon gotta catch 'em all game of screwing every member of the Mayfairs. Yeah, every male member of the Mayfair family, and
Pokemon
was pretty deep in the list apparently at this point when she meets Quinn. Okay, so Mona and Sterling happens to be in this restaurant as well. He was there to speak to Mona, I guess.
Yeah.
And he comes over and meets Tarquin and
Because
meets Queen.
They have a relationship. She has like he's helping them out, helping them deal with, etc.
Well, and it's interesting to her explain where the Mayfairs are with the Talamasca at this point. First of all,
like the fallout from the whole Lasher, Taltos, everything. Yeah.
The whole family has read the Mayfair files at this point, and they're into it, honestly. Like they're like, cool. We know what Uncle Julian did now.
Yeah.
We know where Rebecca got her power from. Marguerite was a real motherfucker, wasn't she? You know, et cetera, et cetera. Like they got it lined out, and they're sort of wearing it as a badge of honor amongst each other now.
Yes.
Which is kind of cool, honestly. Also, they have reorganized the family after all of the fallout from Lasher. And I think at this point, Taltos has maybe all happened, or Taltos is about to happen, I guess. Right.
Is that where we are?
I think we're in between. Maybe it's
in
afterwards,
between?
but I think it's in between because Mona says she doesn't know where her daughter is exactly.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that resolves itself in Taltos. So I think this book is in between, but I could be wrong on that. Either way, though, the Mayfair family is just rolling along. They're like, oh, okay, Rowan is barren now because of all of the trauma that she endured.
Because her ute got yeeted by Lasher.
By multiple Taltos.
By multiple Lasherings.
So she can't be the designee. She's still the heir. She's the head of the family, but she can't, she has no heir to pass it on to because she won't have any children. So Mona has already been set up. Now, Mona was gonna be the designee, I think, eventually, if Rowan had never showed up, before Rowan knew that she was part of the family. So that's kind of cool. But again, it's just like, it shows the sort of like clinical nature of the Mayfair family. Like,
about how
the machine just continues to churn.
Absolutely. We clean up the mess of this generation and we move on into the next one and hope it's going to be better this time around.
But it so like the way she's being handled here and the way she talks about the fact that like the family's guarding her basically so she won't be a slut anymore. It reminds, and also the prearranged marriage that she has expecting with her cousin Pierce. Or no, is it? Yeah, Ryan's her dad. Ryan's the dad, right? Yeah. So it's Ryan's the older generation. Ryan is a descendant of Cortland, and then Pierce is the younger one who is set up to marry Mona and be the man in charge of the family,
the next lawyer in charge.
Her. But it's I don't know, man. It's like hearing her talk about it reminded me of all of the drama with what's his name, Harry and Meghan, the prince and princess. And Diana before them, right? Like,
oh man,
it's
huge
just this
drama.
meat grinder for humanity, which is crazy to think about when we're talking about incredibly wealthy and powerful people.
Well, it's when the family is more important than the individual. The family itself, the family name, the family reputation, the family is always more important than the individuals that are part of the family.
I mean, I think it's clear that Ashley and I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for the very wealthy as a rule, but it's interesting to see when even great wealth can be a prison of its own kind, right?
Well,
and that's what Mona's captured in here, right?
Yeah.
It's like
she's trying to fuck her way right out of that prison.
I mean, it's like a beautiful Tiffany prison, but it is
it's very
still whatever they call it, like golden handcuffs. Okay, so everybody's like, hey, this is a bad idea, and Queen especially is like, first of all, Mr. Sterling Stir, thank you very much, but no thank you.
But no thank you. We do not fuck with the
I
Talamasca.
really must insist that you fuck all the way off.
Yes.
But also she's like, no, Tarquin, you cannot marry Mona Mayfair. Let's get out of this restaurant.
Yeah, things have escalated quickly.
And Father Kevin, God bless him, is like, oh. It reminds me of the moment in Big Lebowski where Bunny Lebowski says, I'll suck your cock for $1,000, but he can't watch, or he's got to pay $100 or whatever. And he's like, oh, Mrs. Lebowski, a very original character, very, very colorful. Yeah, Kevin's like shooing Mona off while they're both slobbering at each other, basically, and professing love. But of course it's not a good idea. Like, of course it's not a good idea. It's probably also not a good idea for Mona to marry Pierce and further the Mayfair incestuous
fuckery,
line.
The literal Mayfair fuckery.
You just figured out what this generational plan has been about, and it was to create a super being. Yeah, like be like, oh, no more incestuous marriage. I guess it's like we got to keep the money in the family. I don't know. But anyway, it's so strange to me. But they separate and go
Traditions die hard, Joel.
Right. They go their own ways. And suddenly we're reminded, oh yeah, Pops died. So it's time for the will and the settling of the estate. So some cool shit happens here, actually, and I kind of like it.
Yeah.
Patsy gets a fortune.
Yeah,
so
she's
Pops
taken care of.
So Pops had basically cut her out of his will.
Mm-hmm.
But the money that it descends from Manfred, like all the Blackwood money, comes to Patsy no matter what. He can't do anything about that. Pops had a fortune that he had built for himself, and everybody gets a big share of it. Tarquin is the main inheritor. He says he became a fully funded man, and I was like, oh Jesus.
He's about to he's about to act a damn fool. He's gonna Menendez Brothers his way across fucking town is what he's gonna do.
2 credit cards with $100,000 limit, a checking account that gets $20,000 every month, and a money market account that gets $80,000 every month. Every month, $100,000 in your bank account.
Did you just say, I don't think I'd need to use my credit cards?
Oh, no. Poor people spend their own money. Rich people spend other people's money.
That's really true. That's exactly it. So I would be using my credit cards. Damn it.
My mother says poor folks got poor ways, Ashley.
That is. The system is made to keep you there. It's made to keep you down.
It really is. Okay, so we find out though. Okay, so Tarquin gets a big pile of money. Jasmine gets a big pile of money. Now we find out here too, through everybody's disbursements, that basically all of the hired help already are rich from their wages, one would assume previously. Like Pops has paid them so well over the years. They're all wealthy. They just stay at Blackwood Farm because they like it. Yeah. They just like enjoy this family and like it.
That's like the craziness.
That's some real lost cause bullshit though, Ashley. All the enslaved people just love they masters is what that sounds like to me. Like, I'm like,
look,
and this is real. Just again, like, let's stop making it so much about the big house folks. Okay. Another saying of my mother, be careful when you shake that family tree, Ashley, because you never know what's going to fall out. Pops has a bastard.
A secret baby.
Love child.
A love child.
I love the idea of Terry Sue. We get this description of Terry Sue from the lawyer, who is, first of all, sort of shocked and dismayed that he has to bring this up at all.
Yeah, this is very I'm sorry. I know everyone's going to be very this is very delicate. Delicate.
Miss Queen, I'm just a small town country lawyer, and I've never had to do something like this before, but your husband has a bastard child. You know Terry Sue, don't you? And Queen does know Terry Sue, in fact.
Everybody knows Terry Sue. Everybody fucking knows Terry Sue.
Lord, Terry Sue just had a 6th child, don't you know it, just the other day.
Terry Sue, spit them out.
Terry Sue likes to have sex. And Ashley, I immediately was reminded, look at the way that Mona Mayfair is discussed. Still scandalous. Queen doesn't want Quinn to be with Mona, but she does not look in disgust in the direction of Mona Mayfair, where she very much does at Terry Sue, until she finds Terry Sue's got their genius child.
Right.
So the lawyer's like, listen, she's in a bad situation. You need to help her out. And Queen, once she actually gets it, she does buy in.
Yeah, and she's
to
like,
be fair,
fucking, let's put them in a house. Like, let's.
Yeah. All the money in the world. Let me solve some problems by
Yeah.
throwing some money at it, right?
You know,
yeah, great.
yeah.
Happy to. There's a funny line here, though, where Queen says, she says, men fall flat for Terry Sue, but something stands up straight.
Yep. That was a really funny line. Well, because Quinn was like, how come I've never heard of Terry Sue? And everybody's like, that's why you've never heard of Terry Sue.
We just have two bastards and a whole different set of problems if you had known about Terry.
Yeah.
Do you remember 30 minutes ago when you were fucking the ghost? Like, the second ghost that you've been fucking lately?
You want an uncle brother? Is that what you want? An uncle son? Like that?
I'm my own grandpa. Okay. He is hearing about Pops's life and how what Pops did and how much money Pops had made in all the different ways and this fortune that he had built. And he's thinking, Pops worked like a hired hand every day. Like, he just worked the farm with these guys. Like, he was just he thought about Pops as a simple man. And it turns out Pops was a business genius, actually, and had turned the fortune that he had been given into an even larger fortune. And he's at first like almost repulsed by the idea that Pops would just stay here in town. And he says to himself, I would go mad if my life weren't more. And then, to be fair to Quinn, he finally hears himself a little bit there and he's like, oh, that's kind of shitty.
Yeah. Also, I'm making every excuse in the world to not leave this place.
Right? Like,
actively. You have an option to go to Europe and you're actively looking for excuses to stay there. So, like, pot kettle.
So Quinn races away and kidnaps Mona at this point. And I don't think it was his intention. I think he just wanted to see her. He told her he was going to call on her, and he goes to see her.
But she's waiting outside. She rushes out.
Yeah, she knew he was coming. He's like, how do you know? She's like, I'm a witch, Quinn. I told you this already. Like, I knew the moment you left your house.
I probably put a spell on you to make you think about me constantly.
I immediately thought about Merrick in the last book we talked about, and how, like, she bewitched not one but two motherfuckers in that book to come looking for her. I'm like, yeah, Mona might have drawn you to South Louisiana, actually, Quinn. But he collects her, and she says, we've got to go now if we're going to go, because they're going to come and chase me. And so they run away, basically. And he's like, I'll take you back to Blackwood Manor, and you'll be fine, and then you can go to Europe with us. And she's like, no, I can't. They're not going to let me
do that.
Yeah. But hey,
he did order a bunch of cute stuff from Walmart for her.
Would you drive off the road if I unzipped your pants? And I was like, again, I think this is why 13-year-old Joel was so in love with Mona Mayfair. She was
just gonna tell you what she wants.
Always down for it, man. Always down for it. And she gets it. Both on the road and not really on the road, but she gets it once they get to where they're going. And then finally he presents her to Queen, and they begin to work through these problems. It's at this point in the conversation that it comes out to Queen. He tells her that he's bisexual. He says in front of her. I don't think he says it directly to Queen, but I love Queen's reaction. Bisexual. Isn't it Byronic and charming? Byronic, as in like Lord Byron. Lord Byron. Doesn't that double one's chances for love? Yes. Aunt Queen, ally.
Yes, Aunt Queen.
From the old generation.
She knows.
Queen gets it. Exactly. Happy Pride, by the way, everybody.
Hell yes. Happy Pride.
This is the moment where finally Mona lets in to Quinn that she's 15 years old when Quinn has kidnapped her to marry her and smuggle her to Europe. Sort of sounds like Jerry Lee Lewis, actually. Let's maybe don't do all of that.
At least she's not 13, right?
and his
Ugh.
literal cousin.
And
Although
his
we do
literal-
find out
nope,
there's some
fuck,
connections
yeah,
there
there's
later.
some connections there.
It's like distant cousin.
Mm.
Again, though, even with all those holes that we've just poked in it, I do like their magnetism to one another.
And there is something really beautiful and lovely about being seen for the first time by someone who knows your shit more than anyone else could, you know?
The wild abandon where you give yourself up to somebody else because you feel so seen and understood. That like that simpatico feeling. I mean, like, I feel like soulmates almost diminishes what we're trying to explain here or discuss, because like that is it's literally just like, oh fuck, man, maybe somebody gets what I'm,
Yeah.
you know, we
Not
all
only,
only
like-
have our own experience, right? We all only have our own viewpoint, and we can try to empathize with each other and put
Yeah.
ourselves in someone else's shoes. But I don't know what it's like to be Ashley, right? And I'll
Mm-mm.
never know exactly what it's like to be Ashley. So when you get that moment, especially when you first met somebody and it feels like they are finishing your
Well,
sentences,
you're already like smitten too. Like, my God.
yeah, I mean, and it doesn't hurt that they're both very attractive people,
Yeah,
right? Like
and they
Quinn's
don't
already
even-
told us
yeah.
he's
They literally
tall
have
and handsome.
no chance. They have no chance of not being, you know, of not getting into these particular shenanigans that they're about to engage in.
So I'm so enjoying this because I really do not remember where this shit goes. I know.
I don't either. I remember the end of this book, and that's about it.
See, I only vaguely even remember the end of it. Because I think I've like glimpsed a line or two in summaries as we've looked up like facts from the book or something. But I am really enjoying this, and I am excited. I think we've technically got 2 more passages on the schedule, but I think they're both pretty short. I think we're only like, I'm in the audiobook, and I think I've only got about 5 hours left of the audiobook at this point. So we may wrap this thing up next week. Not next week, but 2 weeks from now. I don't think so. Ashley and I'll talk. If we're going to do that, we'll alert everybody ahead of time. But next week, we're going to get to The Invitation, new vampire movie. We're finally out of the 80s for a second, Ashley.
But I'm so excited when we go back. I know I complained, and then I immediately was like, shut
Never
your
mind.
mouth. Never
Some
mind.
of the 80s is amazing.
All of it.
So we've got The Invitation next week. Then we'll come back to Blackwood Farm. Then we'll do Poltergeist from 1982, I think.
I've got all the thoughts about that movie, y'all. I'm going to talk and talk.
I'm so excited to hear you talk about this, because this is not one that is like a seminal film for me. I think I've seen it once, but I wouldn't even swear to it that I've seen it.
I can't wait to hear what you think.
I'm not 1,000,000% sure that I've seen this one. So yeah, I'm very excited.
To me, this movie is like, it puts me in the mind of like Jaws in some ways, because there's some moments in it that are just incredible and completely are beyond the movie itself. You know what I mean?
Yes. Speaking of Jaws, so last week, Ashley, we talked about, I think it was last week, maybe it was 2 weeks ago. I was like, sometimes I get mad because none of my children read Anne Rice yet, and then I remember that's just because I've raised them appropriately and monitored their media intake. Okay, here's an example of how I maybe have not been perfect about that. One of my 11-year-old daughters was telling me the other day, she said, "You know what my favorite movie ever is, Dad?" And I said, "What?" And she said, "Jaws." And I was like,
yes.
Really? I was like, when did you see it recently? Because I think it just came, I think they reissued it on Peacock or something recently, and people have been talking about it because it's an anniversary of its release.
Yeah, it's
and
like the 50th.
She said, no, the last time I saw it was the last time I saw it. And then we all laughed because that's a funny thing to say. And I said, do you mean the last time you saw it is like the first time you saw it when you watched it with the family? And she said, yeah. And Ashley, I'm not 100% certain whether that was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, but my daughters were 8 or 9 when we watched Jaws. And it's not like Jaws is terribly scandalous.
No, but Jaws is scary. Jaws is scary.
Yeah,
it's some real scary.
Still scary. Yeah.
I just watched it at the movie theater. It scared the piss out of me in the movie theater. I was so
scared.
Man,
on a big screen it would have been amazing.
It was so exciting. Yeah, no, and good on her for loving Jaws. That is good You're doing right, Jill.
That's what I told her. I was like, you're gonna revisit that movie so many times in your life and find new things in it. It's genuinely
you
a
don't
film.
even know. You're such a baby.
Like Quinn's monologue, right? Like how
Yes.
okay, that's cool when he tells the scary story now, but like when you're 40 and you come back and
you know about historically what happened,
right? What he's talking about. Anyway, so very cool thing there. We've got 2 great movies lined up, as well as finishing up Blackwood Farm. Our next live stream is going to be on July the 27th. 20. I went down to August. Where is it?
No.
The 27th. That's the Articulate Coven live stream, and we've got it set up for 2 p.m. I think Central Time. Yeah, but that information as well is in the show notes, so watch out for that. That's what's on the docket. If you have not seen the invitation, and maybe that's not even on your radar, but let me suggest go check it out. I haven't watched it yet either.
I haven't watched it yet.
I'm excited to see it. It comes from some of the same producers that did Ready or Not, and I think it's the same group that did Companion, which came out last year. All of those movies, all 3 of those movies, my understanding anyway, are action horror with like some comedic elements as well, and like some light takes. I really loved Ready or Not. It's one of my favorite movies in a long time as far as horror movies go. And I think The Invitation is going to be another one. Look forward to that next week.
Yes.
All right. Until then, we have been your hosts. I'm Joel.
I'm Ashley.
And we are the Articulate Coven. Thank you for sharing this time with the Articulate Coven. Support the show as either a free or paid member at articulatecoven.com/join. You can also find us on YouTube, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Find more from the Coven with our sister show, Flan Again, covering the works of Mike Flanagan.